this is Shweta from Dharamshala Animal Rescue.
Hi everyone, this is Amy with Primates Incorporated and ReelTime Animal Rescue.
Hello everyone, this is Becky at Blue for the Horse-Linkshire Misfit Mustangs.
ReelTime Animal Rescue with Julie McLaughlin of Indiana Skunk Rescue.
Yep, get her. You got her? Judy, God bless you. Oh my God.
This is a big brown bat who is really enjoying his mealworms.
They actually just had their breakfast.
Hello and welcome. I'm Krista Embry, founder of ReelTime Animal Rescue and Compassion Education Connect and Inspire. What you're about to see today is happening right now in the real world, and you're going to meet people who are helping animals and protecting our planet. When you learn with compassion, you don't just gain knowledge, you create change. So today isn't just about watching, it's about you and the difference you can make in our world. Welcome to Compassion Education Connect and Inspire. We're so glad you're here.
All righty, give it a few seconds to load. And then can somebody give me a thumbs up or let me know that you can see a very gray sky? Emma, thank you so much for that thumbs up. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a very gray beach scene. So we're going to go ahead. My computer's a bit slow today. There we go. All righty. Well, here we are. This is the class that we have been waiting for a very long time, called One Cold Day at the North Sea with Mr. O. That's me. And if you're here in England, I don't know about everywhere else, but at least here in London, it is really, really sunny outside. And I would say it's actually very warm outside, which is amazing. But this is not the way England is all year round. England has many, many days that are very cold and gray. So I'm going to take you on a journey that I took with my family to the North Sea on one cold day. And this was in winter, in December. And so we are going to explore where we were. But before we explore the North Sea, I want to talk about something called wildlife spectacles. Wildlife spectacles. And a wildlife spectacle is just something really, really amazing. Spectacle is like the word spectacular, which just means absolutely incredible. And most of the time, when we think of a wildlife spectacle, most of you are probably going to associate it with a large group of animals, often from somewhere really far away from where you live. So for example, here is, I would say, a very amazing wildlife spectacle that happens in Africa. This is the annual migration of wildebeest that cross many miles of the savannas, and they group themselves in millions of wildebeest, and they have to cross rivers, which is very dangerous because in the rivers lurking are the amazing Nile crocodiles that are waiting all year long just for the wildebeest to cross. So I would consider this to be a wildlife spectacle. But another kind of wildlife spectacle could be just absolutely incredible numbers of animals that have congregated together like these king penguins in order to have a nesting colony. So these are king penguins on the island of South Georgia, north of Antarctica, that have numbered in maybe 3.5 million penguins altogether, which I would consider that absolutely to be an incredible wildlife spectacle. I've never been to South Georgia Island, but I would one day love to see in real life the spectacle, the wildlife spectacle of king penguins and many other penguin species on South Georgia Island. Another kind of spectacle may not be exactly in the millions and millions of numbers, but just in the huge diversity of animals living together. This is a picture from a coral reef in Australia, where you have the corals, which are actually a kind of animal, by the way, with all the different kinds of fish in the foreground, all the fish in the background. And so this is another kind of wildlife spectacle. There's other wildlife spectacles that we might not think of or we might not even associate with the kind of animal that it is. This is a group of flying animals, shall we call it? And at this point, would anyone like to guess what these flying animals might be? If you want to guess, just go ahead and unmute yourself and shout out what you think this wildlife spectacle might be.
No more, no.
What do you think it is?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Swifts.
Swift. A swift kind of bird. Okay, I'm not saying yes or no, but that's one guess we have. Anyone else want to take a guess what this spectacle might be?
Falcons.
What?
Falcons.
What was that? Somebody said falcons. Well, that is exactly what they are. These are Amur falcons, which are actually. I was a guess. I think you actually knew what they were, which is amazing. Amur falcons are a bird of prey. They're a raptor that we learned about a few weeks ago, and we don't often think that birds of prey would gather together in large numbers, but the Amur falcon does. They in the numbers numbering the millions, they migrate from Asia to Africa every year, and as they're doing so, they congregate in very large numbers, which is, I think, quite unusual in my head, and I wouldn't think of that as being a wildlife spectacle, but I would say if you see this many falcons flying all at the same time, I would think of this as a wildlife spectacle. Okay, another one that I might use is one that this is my own photo that I actually took a few years back, and this is a group of geese that were migrating in Kansas, where I used to be from. And even though the picture is quite far away, you can't see up close. Do you get the impression that there's a lot of geese in that flock? Actually, the flock that you can see in the picture goes to the edge of the picture frame. But if you were to multiply this picture by 15, that's how long this flock of geese was. And the flock of geese contained snow geese, Ross's geese, Canada geese, cackling geese, and greater white-fronted geese. And the number that I saw, I would say I estimated of what I saw, was something I want you to guess. How many geese do you think I saw at this time? Go ahead, unmute yourself and shout out an answer if you think you can guess how many geese I saw in this flock.
50,000 times 15. 50,000 times 15.
What, can you repeat that one more time?
50,000 times 15.
50,000 geese. Okay, that's one guess. I'm not saying yes or no. Anyone else want to give me a different number other than 50,000? You can go more or less. All right, while you're thinking about that, somebody has just joined our call. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second to let them in. I want you all to think, how many geese do you think I saw in Kansas in this one flock? Give me just a second. I'm just going to let these people in. Here we go. Okay, I think they're in. Welcome. Ospina's from New Hampshire. We were just looking at a photo. Give me a second to show it back up on the screen. We were looking at a photo of a bunch of geese. And let's see, sorry, one more second. I'm gonna have to unshare and start over. Give me 1 second. And we were trying to guess how many geese were in this picture. So bear with me while we try to get it back on with screen sharing. I think you're gonna be able to see this right now. Can somebody shout out? You can see the geese. Fantastic. Okay, so back to guessing. We already had the number 50,000 out there. Anyone else want to throw out a number?
750,000.
It's actually 750,000. You upped your number quite significantly. Any other guesses out there? If not, I will reveal to you that if you added both of your numbers, you'd be about right. We had estimated as wildlife biologists that there were 800,000 geese in this flock, which is it's a staggering number. It's really hard to comprehend how many geese that actually was. But the snow geese, they fly across North America in just huge, huge flocks. And the flock that I saw was actually mixed with other geese. But I also saw at this same time, in the evening part, I saw a whole bunch of little tiny birds that were migrating through Kansas as well. And even though they're not as big as a goose, they're actually quite small. This is the red-winged blackbird. It's just about the size of the English blackbird, not very large, a very bright red wing on its shoulder. These were flying in as the sun was setting, and they were migrating in these huge flocks and settling in the reeds for their nighttime sleeping. And this flock, unlike the geese, which were just like this little ribbon in the background, this flock was overhead, and it was just soaring overhead from horizon to horizon. And we watched these birds fly overhead for 1 hour and 45 minutes. And it was a nonstop flock of red-winged blackbirds over our heads. And I'm not going to even have you guess, because the number, it was just astounding. We, as wildlife biologists, estimated that in that single flock, there were 19 million red-winged blackbirds. 19 million red-winged blackbirds. So quite something. But we are now not going to look at a wildlife spectacle that's so far away from where I currently live, like Africa or Australia or somewhere far, far away. We're going to look right here at home, if you live in the United Kingdom, at a place in Europe called the North Sea. So the North Sea is the sea, the body of water that is to the right of the British Isles, or to the left if you're looking at Norway and Denmark on the map. And so what we're going to do real quickly, we're going to zoom in, and we're going to zoom in on the North Sea to go to a place on the east coast of England. So we're going to keep zooming in, just zooming in, zooming in. And when we zoom in to where there's like a bulge on England, some of you actually live quite close to this area, and we're just going to zoom in onto the coast, zoom in. And in this picture on Google Earth, even Google Earth was able to capture a great wildlife spectacle. And so if you are going to search for this, you can just go to Google Earth or Google Maps, and you can zoom in on this coast along the North Sea, and you can actually see on Google, they recorded a large wildlife spectacle. Now, I think all of you know what we're about to get to, but before we get to that, here's my part of the journey. So I drove with my family to the coastal areas of this area in England called the Norfolk Coast. And this is winter, this is December. And even though this first photo looks like it was a beautiful, wonderful holiday with sunshine and beaches, it really wasn't. It was pretty cold, and it was pretty wet, and it was pretty overcast. Actually, most days were just kind of gray with lots of rain, and it was really windy and cold. And it might not seem like the place or the time of year to see a wildlife spectacle, but we actually saw a lot of wildlife. So even on this one gray picture, I'll just point out a few things. There were a few different kinds of gulls that we would see in fairly large numbers. There were also a lot of pink-footed geese that were flying overhead in large Vs, not 800,000 like I saw in Kansas, but we still saw a large number of pink-footed geese. And occasionally, we would see birds quite up close. These are called ruddy turnstones. They are a small little shorebird that are called turnstones because they use their bill to turn over. We also saw flocks of pink-footed geese coming into land. I think you might be able to hear their sounds. A whole 1,000 pink-footed geese in this field, which is a pretty cool thing to see. So the pink-footed goose is named because guess what color its feet are? Yeah, they're pink. So it's called the pink-footed goose. And so that wasn't exactly our target, though. Our target was right there on the coast. And on the coast, there's a lot of sand dunes that are covered with grass. And so you kind of have to park your car and then walk through the sand dunes and over the grass. And then you come to a bunch of grass that will stop because that's where the beach starts. And if you look in this photo, this was what we were looking for. This is one of the largest colonies of breeding gray seals in the world. So we're standing right here. These are all my own photos. And you can see flopped on the beach, not even making that much motion, there was a whole bunch of gray seals. And if you look on this picture, you can see that some of them are blackish or quite dark. Some of them are more tan or brown or beige, and some of them are whitish grayish. And this is actually telling us that the dark ones are the males, the brownish tannish ones are the females, and any of the ones that look quite pale, quite white, those are the babies that were just born. So on this beach, there was a record, and some volunteers had counted that year up to that point, 3,565 pups, those are baby seals, had been born on that beach. And there was about a 4-mile stretch of beach. And throughout the whole 4 miles, you would find thousands of gray seals. And amongst the thousands were 3,565 newborn baby pups. For me, that was the largest number of baby animals I'd ever seen in one place that had just been born. Okay, so just to give you an impression, we were able to get really, really close to these seals. But do you all see that blue line that's running across the screen? That blue line was to say, people, don't go any further. Past this blue line, this is the area that the seals need to keep themselves safe so that they don't get disturbed and so that they can have their pups, raise their pups, and be at peace. But we still got really, really close to them, even with that blue line. And if you're like that boy with the yellow giraffe binoculars, you could actually get closer by zooming in and seeing quite easily with your binoculars. You could see the dark males, the lighter females, and the whitish, grayish, a little bit yellowish pups that had just been born. Okay, so we went back a second day. We actually went 2 days in a row. And the second day, it actually was lovely and sunny, and we had a great time, but it was still super windy and cold. This is still December in England, but we got to see the seals when it was beautiful and sunny. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a series of videos that I took myself, and I know that when I share them on Google Meet, it gets a little bit laggy, so just bear with me. It's not going to be the most smooth video, but here is some sunny day pictures of the gray seal colony. So as I scroll across this picture, it might be a little choppy. Can you all see crawling at the very front of the screen closest to us, there's a little baby pup, and that little baby pup had been born about 3 hours before I took this video. It had just been born, and interestingly, that big white one behind, not brother, sister, but you can see how fast they can grow. The difference between the small one and the big one was only about 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, that little pup is going to go from that size to that big fat size right above, which is almost the same size as the mother, which is flopped over on the right, the grayish spotted one. And so we watched that little guy, and he had just been born, but he was very able to flop around. We never actually saw him with his mother directly, but there he is looking around next to a giant 3-week-old pup who's almost full grown, which is pretty incredible. And just all across the beach, we would just see seals, we would see males, babies, females, big babies, little babies. It was pretty incredible. We walked further down the beach, and there was just the whole beach. You would just keep seeing seals. You'd see small baby seals, big baby seals. But in this stretch of beach, I think it's in this stretch. Oh, there it is. We found a baby with her mother, and this is the closest we were able to get. It was just past the blue line from our vision. And so I took a little video of her. Let's see, there we go. That's pretty laggy. Here we go. And this one, for whatever reason, let's see, it's not actually playing right now, but she just had her little flipper, there it is, and she was just scratching her little pup, tending to her pup as a mother should. So this was a pretty cool close-up experience. But as the pups grow up, this was actually a different visit that we took, but this was about maybe 2 or 3 months after they had all been born. The baby pups just kind of congregate on the beach. They're full grown, and this is where they just congregate in very, very large numbers, very close to us. And if you want to see how close, they were that close. This is us with the family. They had removed the blue line. The blue line wasn't separating us anymore. The only thing separating us was common sense. It's probably not a good idea to get super close to an animal that is actually bigger and longer than you and weighs more than you. But we still enjoyed very nice views of these seals. And so here we are just sitting very, very close to these seals. They're pretty much all grown up now. They're waiting to go into the ocean and basically live their lives and start the cycle all over again. But of course, one of my kids was a little skeptical of how close one should get. So he stood at a very nice distance away. But don't worry, ice cream solves a lot of things. So we had ice cream later, and he was very happy, much more overjoyed with ice cream than seeing seals that close. But anyway, this was a bit of my journey of going to see a wildlife spectacle in England, which is the gray seals that give birth on the Norfolk coast. Okay, now we're gonna, oops, sorry, I just stopped sharing. Did I stop sharing? Let's see, are you all still seeing my screen? Sorry, I just lost.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so we're just going to take a few minutes, just a few minutes, because this is one of Mr. O's class, in order to bring the chalkboard out and just talk a little bit about seals from the perspective of taxonomy. And taxonomy, if you remember from the Raptors class a few weeks ago, taxonomy is something I actually really enjoy learning about and teaching. But taxonomy is the study of how animals and plants are classified, how they're grouped together, and how we understand how they're related to one another, how they function, the general characteristics that makes them similar or different. So we're just going to have a really quick 2-minute review of taxonomy. That taxonomy includes these letters, KPCOFGS, which stands for certain things that help us with taxonomy. If you remember the picture from before, this is the picture of kids playing chess or feeling greatly sorrowed. This is just a phrase I learned that helped me remember KPCOFGS, because kids play chess or feel greatly sorrowed. The first letter corresponds with the first letter of these important words in taxonomy, which is kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Complicated words, but what these mean is this helps us understand how the animals are grouped together. So in the kingdom that we're studying with seals is kingdom Animalia. The phylum is Chordata vertebrata, and I'm going to have to tell one of my Animalias to hush, so just give me a second. I'm going to mute myself and tell her to be quiet. So, this is what happens when you work within kingdom Animalia. They often make noise, as that Animalia was. The class that we're talking about is class Mammalia, which means that seals are mammals. The order is Carnivora, which sounds like the word carnivore. We'll talk a lot more about that later. The family, there's actually 3 families of seals that we're going to learn about soon. There are 22 genus, or genera as they're called, and amongst them there are 34 species. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at the 3 families, which amounts to 34 species of seals. Now, okay, that's just, we had to get that out of the way. We just had to talk about it because we're going to talk about the 3 families of seals. And the families of seals are that word, and that word, and that word. So it's me. I'm so sorry. This is Mr. O with you. I like to learn these big words, and I like you to learn with me. So the first one is pronounced Odobenedy. So in your family groups, in your school classrooms, I want you all to say with me, Odobenedy. 1, 2, 3, go. Odobenedy. Okay, Odobenedy is the first family of seals, which include the walruses. Walruses are a type of seal. So Odobenedy is the family of walruses. The next one is Otariidae. Okay, now you might notice there's 2 I's in a row, so we're going to pronounce it Otariidae. So everyone with me on 1, 2, 3, we're going to say Otariidae. 1, 2, 3, go. Otariidae. Okay, what is Otariidae? Otariidae are the eared seals. So you might be thinking, the what? Well, we'll talk about that, but there's a little clue in their name that these seals have ears. And we'll answer this question. Does that mean that some seals don't have ears? Well, wait for that. And the final family of seals is called Phocidae. So that's a little bit simpler. Phocidae. Repeat with me. Phocidae. Okay, so starting from the top with walruses, we have Odobenedy, we have the eared seals, Otariidae, and Phocidae, which are the earless seals. Okay, so what are these? Well, that's enough big words on the screen. I'm going to stop sharing the chalkboard because I feel like that was enough big words for one session. You might all agree with me, but we're still going to learn about the Odobenedy, the Otariidae, and the Phocidae. Are you with me? Okay. Well, in order to learn about these three, I'm going to bring out my treasure box, the much anticipated treasure box. So here we go. It's treasure box time. I see much rejoicing. This is amazing. I got my treasure box, and just right away, I'm going to change my camera view so that you can see much more clearly what I'm about to bring out. So, hello. Okay, so the first one I'm going to bring out is going to be the one that is most similar to the one we just saw. This is a gray seal. Okay, I'm just going to focus a little bit on that. This is a gray seal.
Excuse me, Mr. O, can you pin your screen?
I am going to pin my screen. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, I'm pinning it right now. This might help you see Mr. Gray Seal a little bit better. Okay, can you all see gray seal? Okay, there we go. Okay, so gray seals belong to the family Phocidae because if you look on their heads, you can't find something that looks like an ear. There's no flaps that look like an ear, so that is how we classify seals as eared seals or earless seals. So this is an earless seal, and that would be quite different from the Otariides, which are the eared seals. And so can you see right here, it's not huge, but can you see right there by his, a little bit below his eye, there is an ear flap. There is an external ear flap that helps us know that this is different than the earless seals, and this is one of the eared seals. So the gray seal is what we have here in the UK. And if you're joining us from North America, you also have the gray seal because the gray seal is found in Europe and North America. So you can find the gray seal there. The eared seals, this is an example of a California sea lion, and they are different from the eared seals, the earless seal, excuse me, not just because they have the external ear flap, which is the best characteristic for separating them, but there's a few other differences because these guys right here, they are more upright. They stand up a little bit better with their bodies, and their front flippers are much better for walking. They are much better at using them kind of as legs, like we would have legs for walking. They use them more as legs rather than only as flippers for the sea. So the eared seals have these right here. And also on their back, their flippers on the back are also a lot better for walking. So eared seals spend a lot more time actually moving on the land, whereas earless seals like the gray seal, they have these flippers that are very short. They are not good at walking. So when you see them, like we saw them on the beach, they just kind of flop. They just kind of flop with their body, and they just kind of move in these big lumps rather than actually using them as arms and legs for walking. So it's a big difference between the two of them. Okay, so this is our earless seal, and this is our eared seal. But let's take a look at a few other things. Oh, here's one right here. Let's take a look at this little fella right here. Oh, so cute. Here he is. This was asked about before. This would be a baby earless seal. And so this is going to belong with the gray seal. One interesting thing that I talked about was I was telling you about the difference between the mothers and the fathers, the dark ones and the light ones, and the little guys. But what I didn't tell you was actually how the mothers take care of their babies. So when their babies are born, they drink milk from their mother for approximately 3 weeks. Just 3 weeks. The mothers only take care of their babies for 3 weeks. And then the mothers say, that's good enough, because in 3 weeks, these guys are going to grow up to be almost the size of their mother. And the mother says, that's enough milk. And then you know what the mother does? The mother, she leaves the baby. And the baby is all there by him or herself on the beach with no milk. He or she is 3 weeks old. And do you know what she does, or he or she does? She just kind of yelps out for the next 3 weeks of her life. She's like, somebody love me, somebody take care of me. But actually, the mother, she has gone back to the sea, and she's done. She's done raising her young. And so he sits there on the beach for 3 more weeks. and he doesn't eat anything. He just sits on the beach feeling hungry and sad for 3 weeks until he decides, oh, I'm a seal. Seals like to eat fish. And so he goes, oh, fish are in the ocean or in the North Sea or wherever you're found. And so he goes, and then he goes into the ocean, and at 6 weeks old, he tries to catch his first fish, and that's pretty much his whole life with his parents. And the dad was actually never around. So the poor guy, 3 weeks with his mother, abandoned, and then he has to make his own way in life. And that's just the way that seals operate, which is very, very different than us in our families, or even some of the other animals that we might know. Okay, so we've got our tragic story of the earless seals, the eared seals. What are we missing? Which one are we missing? Does anyone remember what we're missing? Are we missing any other seal species? Let's see. Let's take. Oh, I found it. Oh, I found it. It's the other one. It's the other seal species. Okay. If you can't remember, it's the Otobenides, of course. The what? Oh, it's the walruses. Oh, there goes the walrus. There he goes. Okay. So here he comes back around. It's the walruses. They're the final group of seals, and they are known for being quite large. They are very large. They're kind of in between the earless seals and the eared seals with their flippers. They're kind of just in between. But the big characteristic that makes them different is actually right here, which is very easy to see. It's their big tusks. And these tusks are actually, these are actually their front teeth. Did you know that these two big tusks sticking out of their mouths are actually the extension of their teeth called canines, which just stick out of their mouths, which gives them their very characteristic walrus look, and it makes them in their own family all by themselves as far as the seals go. Okay, now, speaking of seals that are large, do you think that this is the very largest of all the seal species? Raise your hand, or somebody shout out if you think that this is the largest species. What do you all think? I see some hands raised. It is okay. It's very, very large. Emma has raised her. Oh, she put a thumbs down. She does not think this is the largest. Well, it is a very, very, very large seal, but it is not the largest. The largest is actually, I'm going to make some room because the next one is so large. The next one is actually called the elephant seal. And elephant seals are the very biggest of all the seals. They are close in size actually to the walrus, but they are heavier and they're longer. And somebody was asking earlier, how long are they and how big are they? Well, let's just put it like this. If you had a 2-story house, a house with 2 floors, and if you were able to stretch the elephant seal on its tail to its head, the elephant seal would be taller than your house. Did you know that if you stretched out an elephant seal, it would be taller than a giraffe standing up? They can be up to 21 feet long, almost 6 meters long. I know it is shockingly large, and they can weigh up to 3,000 pounds. That's a ton and a half. They are massive, massive seals. And I now want you to look at this massive seal, and I want you to decide which family does it belong to. Does it belong to the eared seals? Does it belong to the walrus family? Or does it belong to the earless seals? Does anyone want to take a guess? Does anyone want to raise their hand and or unmute yourself and tell me which one do you think it belongs to? You'll have to unmute yourself if you'd like to give an answer. Otherwise, I'm going to reveal to you that the best way to do it is actually to look at their head. And even though this is just a toy model, it's a very realistic toy model. And you can see it has no teeth sticking out of its mouth. And neither does it have a little ear flap. So this belongs to the earless seals right over there, which is pretty cool. Okay, now I am going to shift gears a little bit, and I am going to give me 10 seconds. I need to go tell one of our other animalias in our house that she needs to behave herself because she is scratching at the door. So give me about 10 seconds. I'll be right back, folks. Oh, great. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, so now what I want to talk to you about is the fact that seals are part of a group of animals called carnivores. And this is actually quite surprising because when we think of carnivores, we mostly think of things like this, lions, or we might think of things like this, bears, or we might think of something like this. Let's see, something like this, a wolf. But actually, if we look at this, actually, let's change camera screens again. If we look at these rather different kinds of animals, if we look at all the seals, and we look at a wolf, and we look at a bear, and we look at a lion, all of these, honestly, they look quite different from one another. And I'm going to throw a few more random ones in there. There are some in this family also called red pandas. There's also regular pandas, giant pandas. There's also, badgers? Here we go. Here's a badger. What else do we have? Oh, here we go. We have a cute little raccoon. Let's see. And I could just keep going on and on, but I think you're getting the point that all of these, they're all mammals. They all have hair. They all feed their young milk. But all of these look really, really different from one another. They're just so different. But for some reason, the biologists decided to group them all together in the order Carnivora, or the carnivores. So this is a question for you now. I'm going to switch screens. I'm going to chat. Let's see. Why are all of these animals grouped together? What makes them the same? If you want to answer, you'll have to unmute yourself and just go ahead, shout out your thought. Any thoughts out there? Why are all of those animals grouped together?
Yeah,
okay. Say that one more time.
Again?
They have a spine.
They have a spine. Yes. Okay. So they have a spine, a backbone running down their back, which makes them vertebrates. But why are this group of vertebrates referred to as carnivora or carnivores? What makes them unique? Anyone else want to shout out an answer?
They don't eat meat.
They eat meat. Okay, this is true. This is true. But don't other things eat meat? There are other things that eat meat. It is true. It's true that they mostly eat meat unless you are a panda who doesn't eat meat. They eat bamboo. So what makes them the same? Any other thoughts out there? Why are they all grouped together? Because honestly, what this elephant seal and this badger, they don't really look like they belong together, do they? They look extremely different. Or if we take this lion and this little raccoon, they don't really look like they go together. So what could unite them and make them all the same? If there are any more thoughts, if you can just give me about 5 seconds, I'm going to bring a live animal that is in order Carnivora. And I'm sorry, I don't have a pet seal. I don't have a pet walrus, but I do have an animal that belongs to order Carnivora, or the carnivore. So bear with me. Okay, so this ferocious carnivore is none other than Heather. Heather is a cat. She's a domestic cat, and she is in order Carnivora. She is a carnivore. Now, this does mean, yes, as somebody suggested, it does mean that they eat meat. She is a meat eater. She mostly eats meat. That's her preferred diet. But there's something else about her that actually is seen in her face, and specifically is seen. Grab our carnivore. Specifically in her offspring themselves. Do you mind muting yourselves upstairs?
Okay.
All right,
Benjamin has a suggestion.
Okay, why don't we hold on to the suggestion, and I'm going to share with you while I have Heather that the thing that makes her a carnivore is actually in something in her mouth. So here we go. Let's see if she'll take a little piece of meat. Okay, so she's eating it. Okay, now it's not just because she ate it. It's something about the mechanism with her mouth that helps her to bite and chew her meat. So I need you all to look very closely, get as close to your screens as possible. And when I feed her, try to see if you can see her teeth. Can anyone see her teeth? Now it's hard because she's a little cat, but she is showing us something with her. I'll do it from the side. Oh, it's really hard to see. Let's try again. Here we go. Let's do it high up. There. Oh, that was almost there. If you can see, she has got sharp teeth, sharp pointy teeth called canines, and she's got 4 of them. And these 4 canines, let's see. Oh, she just wants to eat her food. She doesn't want to show you her canine. Let's try one more time. These canines, I don't know if you can see it. You have to look really quickly. These canines are what make carnivores all group together, because only the carnivores have their 4 pointy teeth that are good for tearing and biting their main food, which is meat. So it's these carnivores that have teeth, and that's actually what this is right here, this walrus. This walrus, its 2 tusks are actually 2 of its canines pointing out from its mouth, and these are the characteristics that make carnivores all grouped together. So whether you're an elephant seal or a wolf or a badger or a lion, all of these things are united because they have sharp, pointy teeth. Okay, well, Heather is here. Let's just point down. She's just here enjoying that she doesn't have to share with you her teeth, and she's just enjoying all of her wonderful food. But that is coming to the end of our session. So I do look, of course, to save some time for questions if anyone has any questions. Anyone have a question for me that they'd like to ask everyone in front of everyone? If so, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, here.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
How large is a female elephant?
How large is a female elephant seal? Well, this model right here is showing a male who I said it could reach about 21 feet long. A female is significantly smaller, and they might only reach 10 or 11 feet long. So they can be up to or as little as half the size of a male elephant seal. It's one of the largest differences between male and females in the vertebrate world. That's a very good question. Okay, how about all the girls from Texas? Do you have some questions for us? Go ahead.
Hold on. Now go.
How long is a walrus's teeth?
One at a time, please.
How long is a walrus's front teeth, those big tusks? A full-grown male, which would be called a bull, they can be up to 1 meter long, which is about 3 feet.
Wow.
So just the tusk by itself could be almost up to 3 feet long, almost as tall as some of you. Exactly. That's a big tooth, isn't it?
Zariah, what was your question?
From Texas.
How big is a cat's teeth?
How big is a cat's teeth? Not particularly large. Heather's a kitten. Let's see if we can. I don't know if you can see her teeth. They're not very large. They're maybe like some of her canines, the long ones, or some of her bigger ones, or maybe like the point of a pencil. If you have a wooden pencil, that's about how big they are. They're not particularly large. She does have back teeth like we do that are more for grinding food. And so they're going to be a little bit larger, but she's a kitten, so not much larger than a pencil point. So pretty small. Good question. And one more question. Yes, go ahead.
My question is, what happens if you get close to a seal? Do they hurt you?
Oh, that's an excellent question. What happens if you get too close to a seal? Well, there's actually 2 things that could happen. If you get too close to a seal that is breeding, that is raising its pups on the beach, even just for those 3 weeks while it's giving milk to its babies, if you get too close, you might actually scare the mother off, and she may abandon her pup too soon. That's an excellent question. That could actually happen. The other thing is if you get too close to, especially the males, it could be quite dangerous, because even though they don't have, even though they don't actually have a great way of walking, they can still actually flop fairly quickly, and they have sharp canines, and they could do actually a lot of damage. So the main answer is they could hurt you a lot, which is why it is good to always respect the distance of wild animals, whether it's a large seal or even something much smaller. It's good to respect the distance that these animals need to be happy and not feel threatened. Really excellent question. All righty. Any other questions out there for us today? I think we still have a few more minutes on the clock. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. As I've mentioned to a lot of you before by email or by WhatsApp, I am soon, not yet, but very soon, I will be offering more classes that will be different in content. And just for you all to know that this will be rolling out sometime in May, hopefully before May, I'll show you the new classes that are coming up. When you see the classes, if you see a class called An Introduction to Vertebrate Biology or Duck, Duck, Goose, and Swan, those are what I'm calling my entry-level classes that I want everyone to join before joining our regular classes. So if you've already joined An Introduction to Vertebrate Biology or Duck, Duck, Goose, and Swan, those will be repeat classes. But I will be offering more classes that are not those two classes with different content. And on that note, I don't know if you all know that this is going to happen, but I actually have a homework assignment for all of you. So I have a homework assignment. I know, shocking. A homework assignment. And your homework assignment is to have your parents or your teachers send me an email or a WhatsApp message on behalf of each one of you where you will tell me two things. I want you to tell me what is the most amazing wildlife spectacle that you have seen, that you have personally seen, whether this is something you saw in the city park, whether this was a colony of insects, whether this is birds flying overhead, or you went somewhere amazing on a vacation. I want you all to write to me and tell me what is the biggest wildlife spectacle that you have seen, or your favorite one. That's number one. And number two, I want you to tell me what animal or group of animals you would like to learn about next. So I want you to write through your parents by WhatsApp or by email, whatever way you can reach me. I want you to tell me your favorite or most amazing wildlife spectacle, and also what animal or group of animals you would like to learn about next. And based on your responses, you may see some new classes with new topics that will answer or address some of these things that you would like to learn about. Alrighty, well, on that note, if you would all like to unmute yourselves and show your videos, we can all say goodbye to one another and see you next time. But thank you all very much for joining us today.